Welcome to the Coming Home Well podcast, the show that educates, supports, and advocates for the veteran community. Your host, Dr. Tyler Pieron, U.S. Army retired, will bring you exciting conversations with amazing guests about resources, research, and military history, all geared to helping our warriors to come home well. Here's your host, Dr. Tyler Pieron.
Welcome back to Coming Home Well. I'm your host, Tyler Pieron. And as always, we have great guests to talk to you about something that is important when you're coming home well. As many of you know, I'm a big advocate for education. We've talked about all the ways the VA can help either fund or help you get your education, either through vocational rehabilitation, the GI Bill, and the 1,000 other ways that we've talked about getting your education paid for. But where to go to school? That's a big challenge, especially if you've been in the military. You're an adult now. You might have a lot of responsibilities. You're working full-time, or you're working part-time, or you're at home with the kids, and you can't go to a traditional university. Where do you go? What do you do? There's a lot out there, and not all are great. Let me be honest. Some are better than others, and we've talked about some of the things you need to do, like checking accreditation. But I'm going to talk with some folks today. We have Western Governors University on with us today, talk about their program, because it is really designed almost perfectly for the military folks that are getting out and want to continue their education. To help us with that, we have Tanisha Miles and KL Allen. They're both from Western Governors University. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey,
thank you for having us.
Definitely thank you for having us. We're excited to talk to you and talk to you, the audience today.
So I know you both served in the military. Let's get a little bit background so you guys know where people are coming from when they say, hey, I've got some challenges when I'm coming home well and I want to get an education. So what's your background?
I'll go ahead and start if that's okay, KL.
Sure.
Again, Tanisha Miles. I am an Air Force reservist, proud Air Force reservist, proudly serving for the past 23 years, assigned to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, our 916th Air Refueling Wing. Recently returned back from a deployment about a little under 6 months ago. And just happy to be back, happy to serve, happy to be able to share my experience with our students and our military population to let them know it is possible to be deployed or be gone for a UTA weekend and still get that education.
I'll tell you a story about the Air Force. I love the Air Force, and I served in the Army, but I always say that I wouldn't have changed a thing. But if I could go back, I would have joined the Air Force.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. A little partial.
What about you, Cal?
Yeah, so Army National Guard guy, 31 now. Actually was one of the last cycles to go through Fort McClellan.
I was at McClellan myself.
Okay, so you know,
back in the day,
baby bangs. So yeah, it was one of those things. From a very small rural town in North Carolina, and you know, the military was a way for me to get additional discipline. Also, playing basketball also allowed for me to, you know, pay for school. Mm-hmm. And so it showed me a lot. I would not change it for the world. One thing, you know, we would get up in the morning and we would be doing our PT in the morning. And then we would see another group over there riding bikes. I'm not going to call out that organization.
We're just practicing harder, smarter, you know, not working so much harder. That's all that is.
And so those mornings I was like, maybe I should have switched, but I'm definitely blessed, you know. So National Guard, 6 years active, 2 years inactive, and I tell people I wouldn't be who I am without that military experience. And for you, thank both of you also for your service, as it's just nothing like it.
No, it's absolutely the case, and I'm a huge advocate. I've had all my education paid for by the Army. In one form or another, and the VA, I guess, but really because of my Army service, and never paid a dime. And that's just amazing to me. And there's a lot of opportunity there, and there's a lot of chances for people to take advantage of it. So I have you guys on because Western Governors University is all about really a great spot for military folks to go. I didn't attend there, so I'm not shilling for WGU. So, like I'm not an alumnus, but I know a lot of people who do go there, that teach there, and that do a lot of things with it. And there's some great opportunities. So I'll give you the softball. What is WGU and why should the military folks care?
Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about who WGU is, and then Tanisha, I want you to slam dunk it and bring it home why the military folks should attend. And so, if you think about Western Governors University, we were founded in 1997. And especially with me being over the Northeast region, a lot of people said, why is it called Western Governors University if you serve all 50 states? And that's because 19 governors in the state of Utah founded Western Governors University with the mindset of closing the workforce skills gaps for adults at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
What separates us is a multitude of things. The first one I always like to highlight is the tuition. If you think about our tuition for our bachelor's degrees, you're thinking about just over $8,300 a year. If you think about our master's degree, you're just looking at over $8,800 a year. And we're also competency-based. And most times I get the questions like, what is competency-based? Like what is this? And how I explain competency-based, it's you go at your own pace. As you stated earlier, people have lives, people have kids, people have responsibilities. And so WGU is built around our student. When you want to take your test, as long as you're making on-time progress, you can do that. Once you master, you move forward. So it's not based upon seat time, it's based upon mastery. The last thing before I kick it over to Tanisha is we have 4 different schools. We have the Levitt School of Health. We have the School of Business. We also have the School of Education, and then we also have the School of Technology. And so with those 4 schools, you can get your bachelor's or your master's degree at your pace. One of the things I also like to highlight, since 1997, we've had over 340,000 graduates. So students aren't just coming here, they're coming here to succeed. And last thing, if you think about our active enrollment, about 16% of our students have some military affiliation. So
I thought it'd be higher, to be honest.
It should be. And that's why Tanisha's here to talk about those things, of how she's going to get that enrollment higher, to get that, more of that brand awareness.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess I'll take it from here. I will start off by saying I had my education also paid for through the military. And though I did not graduate from Western Governors University, I wish I had, right? Just because, as KL brought up, the competency-based learning is phenomenal in itself. Being a military member, coming back from the deployment, trying to make sure you can take those courses, not to have to worry about Blackboard postings in itself is a lifesaver, right? Because we've all had to do those things. So, you work at your own pace, to your own time. You're going to get credit for your own work. None of group projects, anything of that nature. Speaking of our School of IT, that's probably our highest enrollment for military members and their spouses, along with business. But highlighting that, we're the only university that will offer built-in certifications with your IT program. So we know, in the public, that's anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000 alone just to take a certification. Hey, you're going to graduate with not only your degree, but with 7 to 12 certifications, depending on what your degree program was in. And so that in itself,
that's huge. Like, I'll be honest, I do computer science. That's what I do every day, cybersecurity stuff. And we do a lot of hiring, and certifications are absolutely required to do a number of these jobs, in addition to having a degree. And so usually folks have to go get a degree, then go get these certifications entirely separate. But when it's built in, I trust the certification along with the education as a pretty good indicator of at least aptitude and competence. Not 100%, because, you never know with people. But I haven't been let down with that yet. And the fact that they're combined, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and we prep you for that coursework. So the success passing rate is phenomenal. The degree program is built on preparing you for that certification, and we're going to pay you to sit down and take that exam. In what world would that happen? I have absolutely no clue. But that's how we do here at Western Governors University. And speaking in my Air Force lingo, each incoming member is going to get their personal assigned mentor. So they'll have their wingman with them from beginning to end of their program.
Oh,
We
that's
all get
nice.
bogged down, with work and with life happening. And so there's this one person that's going to check on you daily, weekly, monthly, however you choose to set it up,
Hmm.
just to be a cheerleader and get you through that coursework. That alone is something else that it sets us apart from other universities.
So that
Uh,
isn't another student. That's like a counselor or a
It's it's
guidance counselor, a motivator, cheerleader,
So
uh,
we set it up
something
where
like
they
that.
will get their enrollment counselor when they first enter. That person will walk you through your degree program, explain how it works. But then you get that wingman that's going to be your cheerleader, your fan. If you have questions with your coursework, that mentor will speak on your behalf to your instructor, come back with the results, and you guys work together from beginning to end. And so that alone, like I said, it's great. I've never worked anywhere that's had that setup,
I've never
nor
heard of
have
it
I
either.
Yeah.
went to any, higher institution that had that setup. And so,
No, that
um,
sounds fantastic. So if you're attending classes and you're getting kind of lost
Yeah.
and you've got somebody that you've worked with over time, it's not just a random email or
very
send a
personal.
random contact of somebody you don't know.
You know this person. You get that phone call. They're stored in your cell phone or wherever you store those numbers at. We've had several people on our military team complete a degree program through WGU. They've expressed, their happiness with the program and, raving about their mentors. And the mentor can really make or break you in the program. But we have some phenomenal folks here that really understand not just the military side, but just the human side of going back to school, the struggle. Because most of us, are 30 plus, deciding to go back to school. And so you have life happening to you
Mhm.
daily. And so to have a mentor be with you from beginning to end, you really can't beat that.
Yeah, the pedagogy of teaching adult learners is entirely different than teaching somebody like my son, who's a college freshman this year. And I was listening to the tuition part, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a lot of money." Because I know what I pay, and it's a lot. To go in person. It's insane, just how expensive college is, and it's not even just the tuition; it's all the other things.
Mhm.
And so 8 grand ish for both undergrad and a master's. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's having that the opportunity if you're deployed TDY somewhere.
Hmm.
You don't have time to check in, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock to meet with your instructor or your classmates. We're really structured so that you do this, as KL said, at your own time, your own pace. You don't have to worry about anybody looking over your shoulder. Did you log in yet? Those type of things. Doesn't matter what time it is. So if it's 8 o'clock in Kuwait, but it's, 3 o'clock in the morning here, it's okay. I can still get my work done and get the credit for it without being penalized.
So you talked a little bit about the various schools. We talked a little bit about the technology, but there's business and health and education. What kind of degrees are folks looking at there?
Well, so if you're thinking about, the healthcare field, sadly, we've lost a lot of nurses, and you think
Hmm.
about a lot of our MOSs can easily translate into that field. So we see a lot of people going into the healthcare field. Tanisha already stated, IT field, you see a lot of cybersecurity. In that field, cybersecurity is a big thing. We've also seen a lot of military members even go back into, teaching K through 12, from
Hmm.
the educator side. That thing works as well. Business of starting business. So, we all know because we've served we can kind of adapt to go into pretty much any career that makes sense. In Virginia, we have pre-licensure program. So again, we've seen an uptick in that. Tanisha used the term airman. Us being Army guys, we're gonna probably use battle buddy. So it's
Same thing.
yeah, exactly. It's one of those things is no matter whatever program you go into, you don't have to do it alone because we hear so many times that people come back. It's that fear factor of failure. But having that program mentor, that wingman, that battle buddy with you, you have a support system that's built in, and that's the most important thing when you're doing something new. Somebody's going to check in on you. Sadly, And before I go forward, I want to give my thoughts to what's happening in California right now. But when we have those situations, we've had some flooding in Florida before. We've had our environmental barriers team reach out, but they reach out to our students because of our program mentors pass that information along. So
Mm-hmm.
again, even though we're a university, we want to ensure people's life is first and foremost. It goes back to Maslow's hierarchy needs. We give our students that sense of belonging because we know they ain't trusted us. So we don't just want them to graduate. We want them to look at us as a extended family member.
No, that's an important part. And we talk a little bit about, not a little bit, a lot about finding your tribe. When you get out and you're sort of stumbling around trying to figure out what to do, especially if you've been in for a long, long time, or if it's just your first job out of high school and you've been in for 4 years, and all of a sudden now you're 22, 23 years old, and you're really out on your own for the first time. And finding your purpose and finding your tribe are the two most difficult things. And that's where people that are going to have trouble coming home well, that's where it's going to be. So finding your purpose and going back to school and like, I'm going to be a fill in the blank, and finding those people that care about you, that's really important. So I'm really quite impressed with the sort of the check-in concept of, hey, it's a consistent point of contact as opposed to, hey, each time it's different. So walk me through. I get out, I'm looking at getting an education. I may have some CLEP or Dante's credits or some education credits for some of my military training, and I want to get a college degree. How does WGU help me do that?
Well, we're going to ask you to make sure you give us those all your certifications, your transcripts.
Mm-hmm.
We'll pass that over to the enrollment counselor who's going to review those and apply it towards an applicable coursework that you can complete. Want to also add in there that when we say work at your own time on pace, we truly mean that because say for instance, and I'm just throwing out a course, it's basket weaving and I'm proficient in basket weaving. I can let my mentor know, hey, I got this. I really don't want to waste too much time with this content. You can request to take the end of course exam for that particular course. You pass it, you move right on. In the military world, that's helpful because then we can add another course at no
Right.
additional fee into that program to get done sooner rather than later. My section where I work at, we're actually on the ground meeting with our military affiliates pretty much on a daily basis. There's a team of 9 of us that work for the military engagement operational team, and we attend base education fairs, various events such as AFA, AFCEA, CCME. And those are opportunities not only to get in touch with the key decision makers, the VSOs, but also those students.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many times we'll be at an event and someone will stop and say, hey, WGU, I graduated from there. Or I literally one time had a gentleman tell me that he got his whole family enrolled in WGU
Oh,
after he
wow.
had in his coursework. And so, once we get you, we got you, you love us, you understand it. Our members are our best advertising and marketing because they will go out and tell other members, they'll come to the table and say, hey, I'm going to bring my buddy over. They need to talk to you. And so that's just kind of the environment that we've set up here, just to make sure that everyone is successful and that we can get that information out as quickly as possible.
So you work at your own pace. I can sort of picture how that works, but how does that work like on a mechanical basis? Like you just you don't have semesters, you don't have quarters. I mean, because the VA is paying and they pay for courses, and I'm just trying to do the math here. How does
So,
that work?
so you're thinking about it when I gave that tuition earlier. It's actually broken down. So you divide that by 2, and it's broken down in terms. So you get a
Mm-hmm.
6-month term, and you can take as many courses as you like. As Tanisha already stated, you have that program mentor. So we already know, like, if you're military. And so we kind of set your schedule up where it makes sense. So, for instance, if you are looking for those VA benefits, your schedule is set up a certain way. If you graduate, you'll make sure you're already going to get that full time. So that's the benefit of working with a program mentor, understanding what's going on in your life to set you up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And there are sometimes I've heard program mentors say, hey, I realize you're eager. Let's make sure we continue to set you up for success by pull you back for some of these courses and do these courses, and then we'll add some. In
Oh,
addition,
I can throw back to when I took a statistics class that I should not have taken because I wasn't ready for it, and that was the only time I really struggled in a class. But I could see where a mentor would have helped steer me around that.
as if you have those classes, hey, we might need to curtail, some other aspects.
Hmm.
And while we're talking so much about program mentors, is because we see when we're talking to our alums or we see at graduation, one of the first people they look for are their program mentors. As I go around these 12 states as well as DC, one of the first things people ask me, do you know X, Y, and Z? That's my program mentor. Or if you see X, Y, and Z, tell them I wouldn't be where I'm at without them. And so by having our program mentors, by having, our evaluator to evaluate a course, then also our faculty, I mean, again, we've built a holistic system around our students, specifically in this case, our military students, where they can succeed. And that is most important because my personal story, when I went to college, I didn't even really understand all the benefits that I had. I didn't
Hmm.
understand the benefits. And so that's something else that we can educate people on the benefits that they have. So Tanisha and her team, they do a great job with that. So again, we're just excited to be able to spread the word about WGU because more people need to know who we are.
Absolutely. And we have our benefits team who does the mathing for the RTA and the GI Bill and how that's covered. They do a phenomenal job, Teresa Pat and her team, breaking it down to the student. Essentially, you're going to have 6 months. That's how we kind of block it out to
Hmm.
take as many courses you would like to take or not like to take. And that's what we tell our students, particularly our military students, because again, as we all know, TDY could come up in a minute's notice, and you have to be ready to go, but you
Right.
don't want to stop your education. And we've set things up so that that student truly does not have to stop their education, unless there's just like an extenuating circumstance. But for the most part, you can keep striving and thriving and doing what you want, and stay on task. Because unlike me, I kind of took that sabbatical and took a little bit too long to get off of it. But if I had a mentor from WGU and had gone here, I probably wouldn't have had that long sabbatical. So lesson learned, but an example for me to share with, my military members and families that I speak with on a daily basis, say it's possible, it can get done. Don't stress yourself out because we got you.
So it sounds like this is applicable to everybody that attends WGU. I know you have some special military programs and things to make it a little bit easier and better. What are some of those?
Well, we actually have a great partnership with our U.S. Navy Community College, and actually with our CCAF, so the Community College of the Air Force.
See, I
And
knew what that was, but the rest of these people probably would.
that's why I had to make sure. I was about to say the acronym. I was like, no, let me make sure. And so, members from those respective branches, they're in there. They go through a cohort of courses together. We have our uh what am I thinking? Outside of the US Navy and Community College, we also have memberships with the Air Force Association, with the Air National Guard,
Hmm.
um, and with CCME and the Army Association of Soldiers. We also have a membership with them. And so, we love to get out there and meet them as often as we can. Actually, at the end of this week, next week, I'll be going to RFCA West out in sunny San Diego and meeting with, 6,000 plus military members and family members to kind of, cruise on over here to come back to WGU.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So I'm it's probably a silly question, but WG is entirely online, right?
100%.
Okay. And you can start anytime, or are there semesters? You've said it's a year long or 6 months at a time. Is there a designated start and stop, like where the year starts?
We start the first of every month.
Okay. So if I wanted to get started, I wouldn't have to wait till whenever the summer semester started, for instance.
Another perk. You don't
Yeah.
have to wait too long. You have that momentum going, that inspiration to get started. We're not going to
Hmm.
say, no, you have to wait, 6 months. We're going to start you as soon as possible.
And I want to add to that reason why it's so beneficial, especially at the beginning of the year. you have so many people that have these New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I didn't get in here, or maybe this didn't work out. And so we're still there to support them. And I always like to tell people, like, coming back to school is not even a resolution. It's like actually creating a revolution, because you are creating that ROI. Another thing about our students, that, because you stated earlier, like tuition, you think about the ROI, once our students graduate 2 years after, they see close to a $15,000 increase in their salary. And you think about our tuition, so it pays for itself. And that's what I'm trying to tell so many individuals. You don't have to go into debt going back to school and getting a quality education.
My biggest thing, and this is something I've harped on the show a lot, and so if folks are listening, they're probably already nodding their heads, is so many people give up their GI Bill, and I know they've changed it just recently in the scheme of things where it doesn't expire, but for many folks, it had a 10 or 15-year lifespan after you got out of the military, and it would poof, gone. Yeah, you couldn't use it anymore. Now there's been some changes, and so that the folks can keep it longer. It doesn't expire. Those 48 months of benefits are still there, which is fantastic. But there are other folks that, well, they could lose it if you don't use it. Though these things are always in flux, but it was always heartbreaking to me when people had really amazing benefits. Like, hey, if I went and told you, you have a 4-year completely paid tuition, and I'm going to pay your rent while you go. That's the GI Bill today. It's fantastic. And people go, oh, I didn't think about it like that. I'm like, yeah, that's how that works. I know people that went and got other degrees simply because they had GI Bill left and they wanted the extra money. And so they said, oh, I'm going to go get another master's. I'm going to get every penny of it out. And you know what? I love those people, because they earn those benefits.
Earned it, absolutely.
And to see them wasted. And so I like this, where you can go and start and get a very focused degree. The technology program, I was mentioning it to some folks earlier. I have cohorts, people that I went to school with that teach at WGU. So I know that they have some pretty great instructors, these folks that I went to school with. Yeah, I can only speak to the ones I know, right? But they were telling me about how the program kind of works and how you work at your own pace. And I said, well, that seems kind of hard to like teach a class. And they were explaining that maybe you ought to go into a little bit like, how do you teach a class? How do you do a class when it's at your own pace?
Well, the good thing about that is, students, I mean, you're sitting here, say you're an instructor, and we're just starting. Remember, you have 30 students realizing they're going at the pace. That instructor there to address those questions, to provide that support to that student. So again, it goes back to what I stated. We create a holistic system around our students. So again, you have questions, it's there. When it's time to turn in a project, it does not even go to that member. It goes to an evaluator. So there's no bias in it. And so again, we're ensuring that when it's some time to be evaluated a project, we have an evaluator do that. Then we have that instructor to have that hands-on spirit, that one-on-one interaction with those students via email. That's how we set our students up for success. And one of the things, as you stated, you have friends, our instructors are like, man, some subject matter experts. So you, again, good quality knowledge and experience in that field, and they take it serious. So you think about our evaluators, our program mentors, and our instructors, we set our students up for success. And so again, it's not that I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I've just seen and heard so many of our military students and our students that are non-military affiliated always tell this story. If it was not for WGU, I don't know what I would do. Or I was looking to move up in my career and I didn't have time to go to a brick and mortar. Because I want to explicitly say, WGU, we're not anti or against any university, brick and mortar. We're here to collaborate. We're not here to compete. We're here to collaborate. But there's also a segment of students that needs us to move up in their careers, to show that, other future generations that you can get this done. And sometimes life happens, and we've been the ones there to help lift those students up. And we're looking forward to lifting up additional students as well.
I often tell folks that are looking at doing online education, I said, don't be fooled. It's not like the old days. It's more work than going in person. And and people don't believe me. And then they start and they come back invariably. I said, yeah, is it less or more work than you remember going in person? And they're like, oh, it's way more work and it's way more involved and I learn more. And I said, exactly. It depends on the course, depends on the instructor. WGU has a great program where you can work on it on your own pace, which is really nice, as opposed to a very structured, trying to mimic what they're doing in the classroom. You had mentioned Blackboard earlier. It's the bane of
I still
professors.
have nightmares about
It's
Blackboard.
the bane of professors' lives as well. Trust me, I know. Uh, so I like the fact that you're not stuck to those very rigid schedules, and you can learn at your own pace. Um, so I've asked y'all a lot of questions about WGU. I'm sure there's a bunch of other questions that I should probably ask, but what should I have asked you but didn't?
Tanisha, you want to go?
I will say you should have asked if there's a military member that has assaulted their TA funds or their GI Bill. Is there any other way to fund it?
That's a great question.
Happy to share that. Absolutely. We have various scholarships available to our civilians and our military students to ensure that they can still continue their education and not get stumped because they didn't have the money to pay for it.
So let me expand that a little bit. What about family members? That's one of the areas that is often not as focused on. We have a lot of family members that travel and live across the globe with their military members, but they don't have the GI Bill. They don't have TA, but they'd love to go to school. Is there any programs towards that? Although it is quite affordable relative to many other places.
They're also afforded, an opportunity to apply for a scholarship as well. And yes, they are kind of that forgotten population, but they're actually our third highest in terms of percentage of students that we have here at WGU. So our spouses and their dependents make up 20% of our military enrollment.
Wow.
25% is with our active duty. And then our veterans make up the biggest population with 45% of our students. And so that's kind of where my team and we come in, and we're truly catering towards that population specifically. We are intentional about where we're going to our events or to have those conversations, to do our networking, because we know, you have that person back at home. I just came back from deployment and I'm doing my thing away, but they're still, my spouse is still here holding it down, doing what he needs to do. And so that's why we have to give our kudos to those spouses while we're out in the field, out in deployment. And at WG, we're not going to forget about them whatsoever. So we absolutely have opportunities for them as well.
So I want to make sure that people can find you if they have questions. Obviously, you could probably Google WGU and find it really quickly. I know I did. So, it's pretty easy to find. But if they have questions, if you're a military folks or you're around, you're a family member, you're a military affiliated, law enforcement affiliated, you'd like to get an education, and you have some questions though, who should they reach out to and how should they get in touch?
I just tell everybody to go to the website, well, I shouldn't have to say www nowadays, wg.edu. There's a lot of information, ways to contact, to move forward with the process. Our goal is to make it easy for students to enroll. And I'll be remiss if I didn't do this. I want to go back to call Tanisha out on a couple of things. And she hates when I do that. Like, you have to talk about the military makeover. I see you and your teams out all the time with the military.
Absolutely.
So you have to tell people about that.
And thank you, KL, for bringing that up, because I'm remiss in saying that. And so what our marketing team has done is we've paired up with Montel Williams and his team, and we do military makeovers. And so what that entails is wherever selected, I think in December, they were in Palm Springs. We'll be out in Arizona sometime in March. And so we have the opportunity to be on ground helping that veteran out with their home. And so we go in,
that's awesome.
Shelves, and we're painting shelves and putting beds together and cleaning out closets and things of that nature. And it's just a phenomenal way to give back. Just have one of our senior leaders there that kind of does that welcoming, but just to see the faces on those members when they come back home and to see the work that's done, it's rewarding in itself. And it doesn't get any better feeling than that to see their joy with doing our military makeover. So we're excited to be a part of that. We'll be having some more coming up. And so, you guys stay tuned and look out, watch out for those episodes on Lifetime.
I watch so little TV, but I'm going to add that to my note of things to go look for. And so I always love stories like that and seeing those things. I remember years ago when all those makeover shows were very first beginning, and my wife and I would watch them, and I was always amazed what they did in a week or whatever. They flipped
It
the
is a
house.
lot of work. I've heard firsthand. It is definitely a lot of work that goes into it, but so worth it. So worth it.
So let me ask one of I guess, the important questions. Accreditation, all that. I have no doubt that it is fully accredited, but because otherwise the Community College of the Air Force and all these other organizations wouldn't be there. But I'll let you guys answer that.
Yeah, so we are institutionally accredited. We formerly used to consider that regional accreditation. The best way for me to explain that is if you think about the top university that's in your state, that's the accreditation that we have. We take accreditation very, very seriously because we realize we have our students' future in our hands. So that is vital. We also have programmatic accreditations that are also vital. So again, we want to ensure our students come here and they can move forward. Employers love us. We have a lot of partners. So for some reason, if our students aren't working, we also try to ensure that we set them up for future success. And so that's all about our institutional accreditation. It's about Tanisha's team being out in the field. It's about the regions doing what regions do. And it's to make every member in our community aware of who we are. And again, I grew up, I tell people all the time, on a dirt road. And one of the things my father, who was in law enforcement 30 years, and my mom was a teacher for 30 years, they always said, the more educated the community is, the less likely they are to commit crime. And that's really part of my passion. I know it's part of Tanisha's passion. And so, again, find us, wgu.edu, as so many stories, but we also want it to become your story. And if there's a way to help our communities, reach out to us.
I'm very excited. Folks, go check it out. If you're thinking about where to go, it's not a full-on jump in. It's you can go look on the website. You can go and sort of say, hey, there's a program I'm interested in, especially if you have VA benefits. Go use them. Go find something that you're interested in. Getting the education is a stepping stone. I know it was for me. I joined the Army when I was 17. I was a junior in high school. I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to go active duty Army. And then I get to my very first unit, and my very first squad leader says, well, you're really smart, so I'm going to make you take college classes. I'm like, I did this so I didn't have to do college. And he made me and pushed me, and then I got my bachelor's, then I got my master's, and then I got a sabbatical from work, and they paid for me to get a doctorate. I was like, this is pretty awesome. I'm getting paid my full salary to go to school and get a PhD. Why is that? Because I did the work up front and got the VA to pay for it and got tuition assistance and sort of did the work to provide additional opportunities. And that's something that I think a lot of people misses, he got lucky. Yeah. People that work hard and do the work get lucky. I've noticed that in life. So go do the work. Folks, thank you so much for coming on Coming Home Well. I'm excited to share the WG mission of getting folks an education in a way that is best for them. I think that's really important, especially with the crazy schedules. I can tell you how many times I was in the middle of a course and I got deployed. I was at the Pentagon on 9/11, watching the building burning, and I had class the next day. So I had to, I was working at the Pentagon for the next 3 months, pulling all sorts of things out of the building, doing all that, and then going to class up in College Park. And I was like, this dichotomy is amazing of, I'm doing this horrible, disaster. And then, but I need to go write, my 2-page paper on whatever it was at the time. And I forget what class. I should probably remember that. But that dichotomy, but being able to work on it on my own time would have been absolutely fantastic. Because I can power through some things when I've got free time, but doing that all the time was really kind of tough, and getting to certain place at a certain time is always a challenge. I'm going to leave you with the last word. Is there anything else we need to know about WGU that I should have thought of to ask?
That family doesn't just include, our students, our military students. It also includes our employers, and employees. And I can contest to that when we say that we take care of our students, that also applies to those of us that work there. I was gone for 6, 7 months for my deployment, and without my WGU family, checking on me, send me those care packages, and even once you come back home, um, being able to pick up where I left off, and then paying a pay differential for me to be gone so that I'm not missing out, on a full paycheck is just phenomenal. And so I've been here for almost 3 years, and I couldn't have picked a better spot to land or a better spot to be chosen, for the position. And just grateful for, the folks I work with, especially KL. And we're just excited about, our students and what we can do to make a difference. And the last thing I would say is that we also have our WGU Academy. So students that might have been out of school for a little bit, our WGU Academy kind of helps prepare them from what coursework will look like. And so we've tried to cover, that full ecosystem. And
so like a prep academy, like, it's been years since I've done algebra, and
yes.
like I did it in 9th grade or something. And here's a little refresher.
Absolutely. So we just want to make sure that student is successful, right? We don't want you to start and feel lost. And so sometimes there's anxiety that attached to that. And so, we have all these things in place to try to make sure we've thought of everything, so that we're not trying to miss something out with our students.
There's always something, I tell you, that because people are challenging, and education is hard, and time is a finite resource. It's probably more important than money. And I used to not believe people when I had no money, and they said, time is more important than money. And then I realize now that, yes, it absolutely is. Doing it and not wasting it, and trying to do the best you can in the amount of time that you do have. Tanisha, KL, thank you so much for joining us on Coming Home Well and sharing the great work that WG is doing, especially for the veterans and their families and the active duty folks and the law enforcement folks and all those people that listen to the show, but also are trying to get an education and trying to make it fit in their life.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure.
Definitely. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us this week on Coming Home Well with Dr. Tyler Pieron. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well, this is Coming Home Well.